There are many different tribes located all around the United States. I was given the opportunity to have an experience with the tribe of Northern Cheyenne, which is located in Montana. During this time, I was going to school to receive my doctorate from Union Institute of Ohio. Um, During this time, I was with the Northern Cheyenne tribe around last June, approximately June 30th to July 4th. A requirement of my doctorate studies was to attend 3 different 5-day seminars, and when looking at the schedule of different seminars, the Montana Cheyenne, Northern Cheyenne tribe caught my eye, and I chose it as one of my seminars to take for my doctorate program. I flew to Montana, and I was shocked to see how much land the Northern Cheyenne tribe had in the southeastern area of Montana. They had approximately 144,000 acres of land for their tribe. During my 5 days with the tribe, I began to notice some similarities between the Northern Cheyenne tribe's culture to that of the deaf culture. One example in particular that really stood out to me was during a panel that the tribe was having, and there were 4 Native American men sitting on the panel, and one of them stood up to present their experiences growing up in the tribe. One of the people on the panel shared a story about his experience, or their experience, with the school system. The reservation has 3 different schools within the area, and at this one particular school, the individual showed up to teach and was the only Native American teacher. The rest of the teachers there were white, and this really struck me because it's very similar to deaf teachers going to teach at a school and all of the teachers being hearing and typically only having one deaf teacher or person present on campus. Another example, another panelist stood up to present their experience, their Native American experience, and described the time he had entered school as a young boy, and his hair was braided in long braids, as it was very traditional for them to do, and the teacher at the school required or asked for him to cut off his braids. This really reminded me of when deaf children go into school and are reprimanded for signing and are told that they must only speak, and they promote the oral method opposed to signing. Another woman on the panel spoke about language and this use of language in schools, which parallels to the world of languages used in deaf institutes. She was very adamant about the change in the way that schools educate their children in their source or in their native language. This is something that wasn't typically used in the past, but is now evolving to a more bilingual, bicultural approach, which is also being seen in the deaf institutes. So she spoke about the importance of the Northern Cheyenne people being taught in their native language, which at this time I can't remember what it is, and then learning and acquiring English after. When this happens, that we can ensure that all the children have their foundation in their native language, and then can grow from there to learn English and potentially other languages. And again, this is mirrored in the deaf culture, as deaf institutes really lay the groundwork for children learning ASL first and then building upon their skills after and learning English second, which creates this bilingual, bicultural experience. So during my visit with the Northern Cheyenne tribe, I was fortunate to meet a deaf gentleman there. He was identified both as deaf and as a Native American of the Northern Cheyenne tribe. And he shared with me his experience teetering the fence between the two different cultures. He himself had attended the Montana Institute for the Deaf and left the tribe to go to school. Upon graduating, he moved back to the tribe, but there were only about 3 or 4 other deaf tribe members there. So Alvin, which is his name, Alvin felt very, felt as if he was having a hard time including both of his identities. So what he does is he lives on the reservation and on occasion will go out to town to meet up with his old deaf friends from the school and intermingle with the deaf community outside of the tribe to satisfy both of those needs for himself as he identifies both as a deaf man and a Northern Cheyenne person. Hearing this man's experience of living in two separate worlds reminded me of a story of a friend of mine who had a similar experience. He was a deaf Native American gentleman, and he was living on the land, and then he would commute into the city so he could see other deaf friends and deaf people of the community. So this was really fascinating that it doesn't seem to just be one person. It seems many people do this. One of the last things that really stood out to me on my visit was the powwow that they held. The powwow had all sorts of dancing and music, and it had people of all ages there. There were the elders all the way to the young children, and they attended this powwow, and I was able to sit in on it, and it was really fascinating and a great experience. Another thing that mirrors deaf culture and Indian culture is, another similarity that Native Americans and deaf people have is the way in which we introduce ourselves. It was interesting to see the MC of the event, of the powwow, introducing other Native American people to the others in the powwow, using their first name, last name, and where they're from. This is exactly something that we use in deaf culture. It's really important to know this information, and we always give full names as well as a little bit about the person. It was just very fascinating to see these parallels between the two cultures. After the 5 days there, I was really able to see all of the cultural similarities between the Northern Cheyenne tribe and the deaf community, and it was really beautiful to kind of realize that traditionally and generationally that these things get passed down from generation to generation, and some things just don't change, and quite proud of our traditions, culture, and community.